Hello, and welcome to 5 tips for getting secondary students engaged. We're going to focus on 5 positive moves that you, as a substitute teacher, can do, even if you're only in the classroom for one day. You are welcome to download this slide deck and keep it as a reference. So just pause and jot down this link, bit.ly/capital NKCES lowercase 5 tips and the number 2. And that's going to take you directly to these slides, and there's a lot of really useful links throughout. First, I want you to just take a moment and think about a time when you yourself felt really engaged as a learner. I'm going to guess that more than likely you're not visualizing yourself sitting at an individual desk and listening to a long lecture. So let's get into those 5 simple ways that we can increase the engagement of our learners when we're teaching in the classroom. Increased engagement increases the retention of the material that you're teaching, and really it's just more fun. So, engagement tip number 1, get students moving. Too much time sitting is not only unhealthy for our bodies, but it also increases the chances of becoming unengaged. Getting students to move activates their entire nervous system, which allows information to be processed more effectively in their working memory. Retention and recall will increase, and more connections will be made. So, how do we do this? Actually, when it comes to a classroom, there are countless ways that we can get students moving, but I'd like to get you started with a few ideas. One way to get our older students moving is to allow for brain breaks. At any point throughout the class, when you feel like perhaps you're losing them, allow them to just have a break. It could be as simple as just setting a timer and allowing them to stand up and move around. We've all been in a long meeting and know full well how welcome a little break to move around would be, right? Or stop at that moment when a break is needed and teach them something fun that will give their brains a break. I've linked here for you a video list of brain breaks that are appropriate for high school. So let me show you an example of one. So, this list of brain breaks shown through video examples is from watchknowlearn.org. Now, I will freely admit that there are a few of these videos that are not working. If you get to one that's not working, don't let that discourage you. I encourage you to go on and try another one because there's a lot of really great examples here. Let's go ahead and just click on one so you can get a little taste of what a high school or middle school brain break might look like.
Okay, we got Amber and Libby. Thanks for helping out. I heard this brain break from Mr. Slorf this morning, and he got it from the good people in Texas. So here we go. Put your hands together. This is an individual brain break. Okay, next, what I want you to do is put your middle finger knuckles so that they're touching. Okay, good. So got to see that. Nice. Great. All right, now I want you to try to undo your thumbs, and then put them back. No problem. Undo your index fingers. Now undo your ring fingers.
But I did it barely.
You got to keep your knuckles together, though. Keep your knuckles together.
It does not work. If this is
All right, everybody stand up.
not possible, I'm gonna like shoot.
Everybody stand up. Brain break, it is possible, but not too many people.
Fingers or
Go ahead, give it a try, please.
use my chin.
So, something like that can not only insert a few laughs in your day, but also provide that necessary jolt of energy and movement to continue learning. Another way to add movement is by using action responses. Whenever you need students to answer a question, have them answer using an action. This not only gets students moving, but also elicits answers from the entire class versus just one student who raised their hand. You could try some of these prompts, for example. If you agree with this statement, point to the ceiling. Or maybe, if you disagree with this statement, pound on your desk. Or if you agree with this statement, stand up and switch seats with someone. Or you could do something as simple as a thumbs up for yes and a thumbs down for no. And all of these certainly could be used in both the physical classroom or virtually. Providing alternative ways for students to respond rather than just paper and pencil can give them an opportunity to move and stay engaged. And right here under the photo, I've linked for you some more ways to get active with student responses. Another quick and easy way to get students engaged and moving is to incorporate sticky notes in your lesson. Ask students a question and have them respond on a sticky note. After students write the answer to the question or response to the prompt on their note, have them get up and post their notes on the board or on a poster wherever it's appropriate. This works well as a quick little break in the middle of a lesson. And what I've linked here for you is a Pinterest board with lots of ideas on using Post-it notes in the lessons. Be sure to check out the ones that really allow for students to get up and move. And one more example of a way to get students moving is to offer flexible seating options. Now, you may have heard the term flexible seating referred to in education as the use of beanbag chairs and couches and wiggle seats and things like that. But really, flexible seating is simply allowing the student the choice to sit how and where they're comfortable. So, in your position as a substitute teacher, you could, when appropriate, allow students the option to sit or stand for an activity or a discussion. If students are required to read something, you could allow them a choice of where they want to go in the room to read. If you're teaching virtually, you could encourage them to turn off their camera, go get comfortable for their reading, and then return when they hear the timer. Just like adults, if we're uncomfortable, we're more easily distracted and often pretty unproductive. Allowing students to work in positions and on surfaces that are comfortable to them encourages them to stay focused and be productive. So, I've linked here an article for you that just explains in more detail the benefits of this kind of movement. Engagement tip number 2, give lots of behavior specific praise. Everyone learns at a different pace, and sometimes it's the students who get it a little faster that receive all of the praise. So rather than only commending those that get it quickest, shift your praise to those that put in some kind of effort. By praising effort versus intelligence, you're mitigating that chance that a student is going to become unengaged because they don't feel like they're keeping up. So, how do we do this? I've got a few things to keep in mind. So, we want to target the behaviors that we want to see more of. So, for example, when students are engaged in their work, when they're using their manners and being respectful, when they complete a task, you want to use clear statements of approval stating exactly who you're talking about and exactly what you're praising. You want to make sure that your praise is both age and peer appropriate. As students get older, they may not want to be praised in front of the class for their manners or their work ethic. They often might prefer a nonverbal gesture of approval or written praise. And don't be afraid to ask them what they prefer. You could say something like, I have noticed that you're really focused when you read. Do you mind if I share this with the group? Or you could say, do you mind if I share this with your teacher? A sentence starter to keep in mind could be as simple as, I like the way you are blank, in any variety of this. For example, wonderful, Joe, you have your materials ready to get started. Or, nice, Kim, I like how you got started on that sentence so quickly. This can increase engagement and decrease off task behavior. And if you're interested in diving a little deeper into this idea, check out this video from NKCES's Dr. Laura Clark. I've linked it here in green. Okay, engagement tip number 3, allow for group work or partner work. So lectures do have their place in a secondary classroom, but that is not going to keep students engaged for an entire class period. Remember, when you visualized a time you were really engaged in a learner, it probably didn't include a lecture. Discussion and sharing with peers is a wonderful way for students to engage in that content that they're working in. Okay, so what could this look like? Here's a couple of ideas. Think, Pair, Share is a really powerful and very simple partner engagement strategy. It offers a quick way to just break up the content, process it, and then interact with it. So, step one in this strategy is set up pairs of students. It could be as simple as just person A, person B, person one, person two. I recommend doing this at the start of a class period so that whenever you're ready to do a think, pair, share, it's all set up. It won't have to interrupt the flow of your lesson or content. Everyone's going to be ready. However, if you don't have the opportunity to partner students up at the start of the class, doing it in the moment is still going to work just fine. Step two is to ask a specific question and allow students to just think independently about their own answer. So, for think, pair, share, a very specific question works better than a more open ended question. And giving them this think time is extremely important in this process. Step three, have the students pair up with that partner and each of them take a turn sharing what their answer was. Step four, listen. And this step is actually for you. It might be really easy to think, okay, while they're talking, I'm going to go ahead and prep this. Or while they're sharing with each other, I'm going to go ahead and look ahead at the next step in the lesson. But the only way this is actually going to be effective is if you, the teacher, circulate and listen. And that's also going to help keep them on task. I recommend after this cycle to call on a few partners to share aloud with the whole class. And only by having listened to the partners are you going to know which ones will be the best to call on, the ones that the rest of the class could benefit from. And linked here on this page, I have for you these steps in order so that you can have them as a reference. Another chance to insert some group work is with talking chips. Talking chips are used best for a group discussion, not a specific question like the think, pair, share, but a more open-ended discussion topic. So what you're going to do is step one is give each student in the small group 2 chips and their discussion topic. Now, when I say chips, that could be just about anything. It could be pennies, paper clips, markers, any little small token that you've collected or that's available in the classroom. Step two, any student in the group goes ahead and begins the discussion. And what they do is they place one of their chips in the center of the table. Step three, any other student in the group can continue the discussion by putting one of their chips in the middle of the table. And when the chips are all used, the table members or the teammates can collect their chips and continue that conversation if there's still time. I like using talking chips for a group discussion because when one person's speaking, the other group members can't interrupt because the rule is you have to have placed your chip down to begin talking. I also like it because no one can opt out. Everybody's got 2 chips, so everyone has to contribute at least 2 times. And no one voice in the small group can dominate. These steps to do talking chips is also linked here on this page for your reference. And both of these, think, pair, share, and talking chips, can be inserted almost anywhere and almost any time to increase student discourse, the students talking about their learning and checking their understanding. You can certainly do some variation of these in breakout rooms if you're teaching virtually. Engagement tip number 4, ask questions. Engaging students with questions helps keep them involved in the lesson. And this reminds me of this quote by Anita Archer. Like good conversation, good instruction is interactive. Try to keep this in the forefront of your mind. We want less input, 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 input. See you tomorrow. Less of that you just talking, and then the day is done. We want more of that conversation style. Input, question, students respond. Then back to your input, ask a question, let the students respond. Now, as a substitute teacher, you may not always be familiar with middle school or high school content. You might not know what related questions to even ask. So, I suggest trying some check in questions like these. Tell me what you all came up with for number 1. How's your group doing with section 2? It looks like you haven't started yet. Can I help you? How do you think you're doing so far? These kind of interactions do have a big impact on student engagement and behavior. Off task students might feel a little more motivated to get back to work. They know you're checking in. Students who were reluctant to come to you for maybe clarification on something might more readily interact with you. Distracted students might rein their focus in once more when you ask these kinds of check-in questions. And engagement tip number 5, build relationships. In order to gain students' cooperation and willingness to learn, good substitute teachers do work to build relationships. Treat students as individuals with their own likes and dislikes and needs and interests. Even though you as a substitute are generally going to spend less time with students, you can still convey respect, and that respect builds their trust and their compliance. Take a moment to read this quote. Asking those check-in questions, having some fun with those brain breaks, and asking their preferences for how they would like to be praised, all of that is going to contribute to building that trust, developing a positive relationship, even if it is just brief, even if you're only there for a day or two. So that's a wrap on 5 tips for getting secondary students engaged. Now remember, every single student is different and there really is no magic bullet. But hopefully these tips will get you off in the right direction. So if you've downloaded these slides, I would go ahead and click on this link down here at the bottom of your slide deck. If you haven't downloaded them, just simply jot this down, bit.ly/capital NKCES, lowercase engage, and the number 2. Type that into your browser, and that's going to take you to a self-assessment so you can just check your understanding of this session. A certificate of completion will be emailed to you when you get 80% of the questions correct. Thank you so much for taking on this role as a substitute teacher. Substitute teachers are critical in our community, and we very much appreciate you.